welcome. Thank you for joining. Hello, David and Nicholas in the chat. Thanks everyone who's joining live, or if you're watching the recording. That was an arrangement of Tears in Heaven. And you might be thinking, what does that have to do with Bach? Well, that last sort of variation at the end where you heard the melody and the sort of faster, rhythm is, I think, really based on the next piece I'm going to play, which is by Bach. It's a prelude from the Lute Suite or Suite BWV 1006A. It was originally for the violin, and Bach transcribed it for a cantata with organ and full sort of orchestra. And we have a guitar transcription of this wonderful prelude. So I hope you hear the connection between the last bit of Tears in Heaven that you just heard and this prelude by Bach. There we have Bach's beautiful Prelude, the opening of the suite. You know, after that Prelude we get a lovely set of dances usually. So hope you enjoy. Let me know where are you listening from. Thanks, David. Where are you listening from? What's some of your favorite music by Bach? I'm not actually playing a lot of Bach today, but a lot of pieces inspired by the composer. He has inspired many generations of composers and still does to this day. So I'd love to know what are some of your favorites, and where are you tuning in from today? I know we've got David from the US, we've got Nicholas from Melbourne, so we've got a bit of an international crowd today. Next up on the program is a very well-known piece by Johann Sebastian Bach, Jesu, Jesus, Joy of Man's Desiring. And this is an arrangement by Paul Horne. I'd strongly recommend you check out his materials. If you search for Paulie's Guitar Journal, you'll find many great books and scores and things like that he's done. Really, really beautiful written work and compositions as well, and arrangements. So this is one of his arrangements, and I think it's a great arrangement because it's not too easy, but it's not too hard either. So because sometimes when you arrange Bach for the guitar, it's just really hard. So here is Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. have Paul Horne in the chat with us. Very good. There we go. So that he was the arranger of that piece I just played, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. A very well-known piece by Bach. Thanks very much. And we have Nicholas likes to play Cello Suite No. 1, which is actually the next piece. Usually in rubato. Okay, very nice. And David likes a lot. There's too many favorites. The Chacon, the Goldberg variations. Wow, so we're going outside. Although there is an arrangement of the Goldberg variations for guitar, actually. I have that somewhere in my bookshelf. Brandenburg concertos, yeah, they're some of my favorite, and the double violin concertos are great too. So, yeah. So the next piece is yet another very well-known one by Bach, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually the last piece in the program by Bach. This is his Prelude from Cello Suite No. 1. Sometimes it's dubbed the prelude of all preludes. It's just such an iconic work, iconic prelude. Hope you enjoy. This is arranged by Trisha Bud, who's a member of the Creative Classical Guitarist. So, beautiful prelude by Bach. We're going to follow this, finish our sort of first set here, our first half of the program, with a piece inspired by that prelude. It's called the Mayflower, and it's by Trisha Bud, who was the arranger of the prelude we just heard. I believe the Mayflower was the name of her, the boat that she used to sail on. She might confirm that later on. I'm pretty sure. So it's got this beautiful sort of you feel like you're sailing through a beautiful smooth through the smooth seas, if you know what I mean, which I have not really done much before, so but I can picture it. Beautiful piece there by Trisha Bud called the Mayflower. That was a piece inspired by the prelude we heard before that by Johann Sebastian Bach. And now Bach has inspired many composers, myself included, members of the Creative Classical Guitarist such as Trisha and such as David Reynolds, who's also in the chat, and we'll hear a piece by him very soon, an Allemande that he composed inspired by Bach. So I hope you've enjoyed the program so far. I think maybe we'll just play on. I don't, don't really feel like taking a break right now. So if that's okay, why don't we play on? The program won't be too much longer, really. So thanks, Damien, in the chat. Thank you. Good to see you here. Says he could feel the waves kicking the boat, rocking the boat. Sorry, I can read that. Feel the waves rocking the boat. Yeah, that's a really nice way to describe that one. So we'll go now to a composer who was one of Bach's friends, Sylvius Leopold Weiss. And Weiss was a lutenist, and he must have been pretty amazing lute player. And obviously his music, I think, was inspired. I mean, Bach himself was inspired by many composers. Don't forget that composers are humans too, and they're influenced by the composers around them. They grow up, liking certain composers, liking certain music. Bach, when he was younger and living with his brother, would copy out scores, and I think for some reason, I can't remember why, he wasn't supposed to do that. He was copying out the scores of composers like Vivaldi, and he would, he would get the lamp in the middle of the night and copy out scores in the middle of the night. And I think that just shows his kind of, passion and dedication for the craft of composing. But every composer starts off somewhere. Bach wrote so many pieces. He's published the pieces we have that exist published numbers over 1,000. That's why we have BWV 1006, 1007. Right? That means there's 1,000 publications by Bach, and he probably wrote more than that. So he would have been inspired by the composers around him, Telemann, for example, many other Baroque composers that we probably don't know of so well today. And Sylvius Leopold Weiss, I think, probably was inspired by some of the same composers as Bach as well. So this is his Fantasia, and it's a beautiful piece that opens with this very prelude-like section with lots of arpeggios, and it sounds kind of more free. And then we get a sort of fugal section, meaning that there's a melody that you hear, and it will get played in different parts, different registers. So I hope you enjoy this Fantasia by Sylvius Leopold Weiss. There we have the Fantasia by Sylvius Leopold Weiss. Definitely someone who was a friend of Bach, probably was inspired by Bach. We never know, maybe Bach was inspired by Weiss as well. You know, just back then, they were just buddies. No, sometimes I think we can like over glorify composers a little bit, and you know, I absolutely love the music of Bach, but he wasn't a god, you know, like he's a human, and he was influenced by, just like we are today, just like composers are today. And actually, speaking of God, you know, Bach, a really important part of Bach's composing, you know, purpose, he actually said in his own words that the sole purpose of music is to give glory to God and for the recreation of the spirit, or recreation of the soul, right? So to give glory to God and then recreation of the soul. It's like a way to have fun, be maybe intellectually stimulated and inspired as well. So I just want to point that out, because sometimes we overlook that, I think. And when I play the music and when I hear the music of Bach and composers like Weiss, you know, to me there's this like there's something in the music, you know, there's some kind of like spiritual power in there. And I think it's these composers were, you know, inspired by God, and that's what helped inspire their music too. So, all right, next on the program, you might be wondering, what is this Top Gun Fugue? Yeah, so I took the theme of the main theme from the movie Top Gun, and I wrote a fugue based on it. So the theme goes like this, and it's on electric guitar, usually, oops, like this. Oops. Something like that, right? Let me do it again. I'm trying to play it with like a bit of, you know, character and stuff. So that's the main melody from the movie Top Gun. And yeah, so I wrote a fugue using that melody. So a fugue is where you get that melody and it's repeated in different parts while the other parts keep going. So you get this really cool, you know, kind of dialogue between the different voices. And, you know, when it's on one instrument, it's quite difficult to do. And very often you might hear this kind of thing. I think it really comes from a vocal tradition when you've got 4 singers, or, you know, 3 or 4 singers. Each one can sing a part, and then once one is done, the other one can imitate what was just heard, maybe in another register, higher or lower. And then the third one can do the same. So you get this kind of, you know, imitation and what's called counterpoint, note against note. This beautiful, these multiple lines, this fabric of music that's created from that process. So we've studied fugues quite a bit on the Creative Classical Guitarist, and it's a great way to refine your craft as a composer, because you have to use lots of different techniques, such as imitation and transposition, and there are other techniques too that I use here. I use what's called augmentation, where you'll hear the theme in slower notes. I use stretto, where you have the theme that's imitated very, very closely towards the end. What else do I use? I've got some notes here. And then right at the very end, I actually use the subject, but it's kind of like linked together with an arpeggio, and it sort of creates this sort of like finale at the end. So hope you enjoy Top Gun Fugue. This is very much inspired by Bach, who was an absolute master at this form of composing. There we go. Yeah, Talk to Me, Goose. That's right. If you've watched the movie Top Gun, that was the theme where I attempted to put it into a fugue. And as I did say, when you do it on one instrument, it ends up being quite difficult because you've got 3, sometimes 4 different parts. Echoing each other. That's what Damien said in the chat. Yeah, it's kind of like echoing each other. And yeah, when you do that on one instrument, you're really using especially the guitar, you're sort of using the full resources of the instrument. So there's a bit of fun there, the Top Gun Fugue. Next is another piece inspired by Bach and by composer and guitarist David Reynolds, who's in the chat today and is a member of the Creative Classical Guitarist. And he wrote this Allemande probably a couple of years ago, I think. And I was super impressed with it. It's actually quite different to the Allemande that it was modeled on. So we, on CCG, we at the end of the Foundations program, which is about a 1-year program, we spend a good few months learning to compose an Allemande, and there's a template, and and so you learn a lot about composition by doing that. We learn about all the different things, sequences and modulations, all these different things that Bach uses that makes his music what it is. It's just it's not magic and it's not mystery. It's actually, it's just very, very well crafted music. And David Reynolds did a great job. This is David Reynolds. This is the Allemande by David Reynolds. There we go. David's Allemande. Absolutely fantastic. And by no means easy to play, David. Very well done. You've written a ripper there. That's a great Allemande. Very exciting and very different to the original one that it was based on. Really very rhythmic and energetic. So great work, David. Okay, we've got the final couple of numbers here for the program. We go to Agustín Barrios, who was a fantastic composer, one of my all-time favorite. David says he wish he could play his Allemande. Yeah, it's not easy. Took me a lot of practice to really get comfortable with that one. So Agustín Barrios from Paraguay, born 1885 till 1946, if I remember correctly. One of my favorite guitar composers, although now I have many. So before I started CCG, I was playing like Barrios and Bach and sort of just really enjoyed them. But now I've got all this other music by Trisha and Paul and David and Eli and Rick and Robin and all these names you'll keep seeing again and again that I put into the programs. So yeah, Agustín Barrios was a fantastic composer, I think in part because of who he was inspired by. He was inspired by Chopin, Frédéric Chopin, so he wrote valses and he wrote a mazurka and other pieces in the style of Chopin. And then he had a second influence, which was Johann Sebastian Bach. And so some of his pieces are influenced and inspired by Bach. His third influence is Paraguayan folk music, so the South American music, which is very rhythmic and really really great too. Traditional folk music. And so you often hear Barrios kind of like, which mode is he in? Is he in the Bach mode or the Chopin mode or the traditional folk music mode? And I think in this one, there's no doubt that we're in the Bach inspired mode. Although it's it's modern, and there are aspects of Paraguayan or South American music especially in the first movement. So we have, I didn't put it in the program, but La Catedral, we have 3 movements. The Cathedral, we have Preludio Saudade, and then Andante, what's the second movement again? Andante Religioso, that's the second movement. And then the third movement is Allegro Solemne. So to translate that roughly, the first movement is something like very sad, prelude of sad longing or something like that. And then the second movement, Andante Religioso, religious Andante. Now the first movement was actually composed like 7 years after the second and third movements. So some people don't like to play the first movement first. But Andante Religioso apparently was inspired by Bach. I think he was maybe in Buenos Aires, and he was hearing an organist playing the music of Bach. And then in the third movement, he goes outside into the hustle and bustle. If you've ever been to Buenos Aires, it is very hustly and bustly there. The hustle and bustle of the streets. So you get a bit of this kind of, hustle and bustle, but then Allegro Solemne, solemn. This is kind of like solemn, but it's also got this kind of frenetic energy to it as well in the third movement. It's a fantastic piece. Probably, one of like classical guitarists, all over. I really love this piece, La Catedral. There we go, La Catedral by Agustín Barrios. And I think I'll actually, I might end the program there because I don't know if I have the energy to play my fugue and jig. Next, I was going to finish on a couple of pieces that I composed, but I might save them for another time. You can find them on my YouTube channel as well. I think La Catedral makes a really nice ending, and what a fantastic piece. It's really, you know, it's a favorite of our, so many guitarists. It's definitely still one of my favorite pieces after playing it for so many years. Thanks in the chat. Thank you for the lovely comments. How many pieces would I say I've memorized? I've got that question in the chat from Paul. Well, a lot of the pieces today I didn't memorize. I was using this using a tablet to read. So, but probably maybe a couple dozen, maybe 20, 25. I don't really know at the moment. I'm sort of churning through so many new pieces, but I do like to keep, if there are particular pieces that I really like or I just have the capacity to keep, I'll try and keep them, maintain what you obtain sort of thing. I'll try to do that. But I do like to, I'm a fairly quick reader, so I can read pieces pretty quickly, but memorizing pieces these days, I don't have the same time and the same capacity that I used to. So I'm probably a quicker reader than I used to be, but then I'm not memorizing as many pieces as I used to. And whereas before I would probably slower at reading, but I would get things memorized faster and prepare, like big programs for concerts and that kind of thing and recitals. So, right, let me know. Do you have any other questions before we wrap up here? I'll post a link, if you're interested in some composing courses, if you want to actually learn some of the techniques of composing that, were used by some of the members we heard today, some of the music like David Reynolds' Allemande and Trisha's beautiful Prelude, and we heard an arrangement by Paul. I'm just like blown away by the quality of work that is done by other people, like the people of today, like composers who, and they would probably call themselves, beginner, new composers too, like David when David wrote that Allemande, he was a new, like maybe composing like a year or 2 years maximum, I reckon. So it's really astonishing what can happen when you're given, I think, just a bit of guidance, a bit of a template to follow. So I'll post a link to the Creative Classical Guitarist here. You can join our community. We have live events going on all during the week. There are also other things. There are products as well, some books, ebooks, and courses you can check out on that website. Feel free to just send me a message if you've got any questions or anything in particular you want to, you're working on, or have any questions. I'm happy to answer any time. And I also need to think about a program for next time. So what do you want to hear? I'm thinking for next week. I'm thinking I might do a Latin American program next week. But some other ideas that have come to my mind are studies of Fernando Sor, which I know maybe sounds a bit maybe that it could be a boring sort of program, but I want to try and show that they're actually really fun pieces of music. So some studies by Fernando Sor is another idea I've got for the future. Latin American, I might do Latin American. Spanish music is another one. Actually, I might do Spanish music. I did a program similar to this about late last year. I think about November of last year. Very similar program to this. So I also did a Spanish program last year as well. So maybe we'll go Spanish, Latin American, Fernando Sor. But let me know, what sort of music would you like to hear? What sort of guitar music, or what sort of music arrangements, or I know there's lots of like Beatles arrangements, if you like that kind of thing. And we've had members arrange songs, myself included. I arranged Waltzing Matilda for the guitar. We've had Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel, like really nice arrangements. So let me know what help me out and give me some ideas what sort of music we can have for the future, because we're going to keep these going. I've got so much music by members of the Creative Classical Guitarist. We've got plenty more Allemandes and fugues and valses and preludes and arrangements, and they just keep coming. So let me know what you're thinking, and please consider subscribing if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel. Would really appreciate that, and you'll get notified then for the future live streams. So please consider subscribing. And I think another thing I want to point out, Toroba, okay, yes, Toroba, that would fit nicely with Spanish music. Okay, I think I'll try to weave in a Toroba piece. One more thing I want to mention as well, like if you've joined the last couple of live streams, I did do some Chopin, and I've actually booked a recording studio, which is really I'm really excited about. So that's going to happen at the end of the month. I'm going to record the album Chopin for guitar. So if you'd like to pre-order that and get some bonuses, I'm actually going to send out another score soon. We've got the famous Nocturne, this one, that one. We've got that with tablature as well, notation and tablature. We've also got the Raindrop Prelude, this one. So you'll get those scores as a little, thank you, and also a ticket to a digital event where I'll just introduce you to some of the music in more detail and some of the arrangers. Learn a bit about Chopin and some of the guitarists who arranged his music close to his lifetime, close to Chopin's lifetime. So put a link there if you'd like to, if you're interested in that. And I think it's one of the first albums for guitar that has the music of Chopin on it. So, only the music of Chopin. So, I hope, I hope more guitar. I see guitarists playing Chopin a lot. So, this is just, I guess, my contribution. But I've looked back at the scores that were, as I mentioned, the guitarists around Chopin's lifetime who were arranging his music. There are now many more arrangements of Chopin. I've got in my library, I can see the book right now, the complete mazurkas of Chopin arranged for guitar, and it's like that thick, So lots of music has been arranged, but I'm trying to go back to, because I think there was a certain way, there's a spirit about how there's a mode or a spirit about how they arranged his music back then. They had that romantic sensibility that was prevalent at the time, with the types of ornaments and the slides and just the way that the music comes across is a bit different. So it's kind of captured some of that romanticism from the period, I think, which I really like. So Presti or Lagoya composed. Presti did compose, I think, quite a number of pieces. Lagoya, I'm not sure if Lagoya did. Probably arrangements. William. Thanks, William. Yeah, Presti did some recording. Yes, Presti did a lot of recording. But she did write, I think, some studies or something. And they're very beautiful. They're pieces I've not played, but if I might take a look at them and see. It's good. I like the idea. Could do a female composer program. That could be really interesting, because we've got Colleen, Trisha, Paula, and other female composers on CCG. Etude Fantastique, yeah. Yes, that's the one. Thanks, William. And then we've got Presti. Oh, it's hard. Okay, so we'll see. We've got Pratton as well. Katerina was her real name, Katerina Pratton. So that could be another interesting program for the future. Female composers. We've got Spanish music. We've got Latin American, and we've got arrangements. Would be nice. So yeah, thanks for the help, guys. If you've got any more suggestions, please leave a comment, or if you visit that website, you can send me an email anytime. So I'd be happy to hear from you, and I think we'll wrap it up here. So please stay tuned. Next week we'll have the usual live stream. We're going to talk about earlier in the week on the Tuesday, composing tools that every guitarist should know. And then next week, I think the program will be Spanish music. Okay, but please stay tuned. Keep posted for that on YouTube. And thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate the great comments and contribution from everyone. And hope you enjoyed the program. I really enjoyed it today. I'll see you next time. Bye.